This week on Wild Talk, I have Sean Tatey from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, who takes us behind the badge and shows us what life is really like on the high seas as a fish cop. So when you first put on the uniform, did you ever imagine that it would involve international patrols, smugglers, and stuff like that? Let's get into it. We're ready to sit down and talk with one of the most exciting professions that we've got here in North America, what everybody affectionately calls a fish cop. So I'm joined by Sean Tatey from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans today. What's your formal title?
Fishery officer is our formal title. Affectionately call myself a fish cop as well. So
for those that don't know what a fisheries officer is, what does a day-to-day type career look like for you guys? What do you do?
What I tell people is if it's got fins and flippers, it's usually us. We're everything in the ocean is more or less our jurisdiction. So anyone who's a resource user in the ocean, from recreational, commercial, indigenous fisheries, as well as other resource users like whale watching and all that sort of stuff as well, that may not be harvesting, but they're also impacting different resources in one way or another. Our main mandate is the Fisheries Act and all the regulations under the Fisheries Act. We're ensuring that everyone's following the rules while engaging in any of these activities that would involve the harvest or impact to any fish or marine mammals or species at risk.
You wrapped it up in a nutshell there for me. I love that term, fins and flippers. I've never heard that before in all my years of being out on the water and taking part and seeing you guys and gals all over the place. I've never heard that. I love that.
Yeah, well, I know that the conservation officers, it's fur and feathers. So
it is. It is. I got some good buddies that are COs as well. So you guys have kind of like a rivalry, like a friendly rivalry?
I mean, I would say definitely if there's a rivalry, it's very friendly. We work very well with each other throughout the province. So
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, there's always digs from, from one law enforcement agency to another.
Yeah, that's right. You see it with the firefighters and the police officers, right? They're always kind of playing jokes on each other. But again, it's out of that love and respect for what each of you do. How did you get into this line of work, and what keeps you passionate?
Fortunately for me, I was able to find the direction I wanted to lead me to this at an early age. So I think I was in like grade 11. I was able to do like a sanctioned ride along with the conservation officers. And, we're out trapping bears, checking hunters. It was sort of like a fall thing. And it worked out pretty good. Like I thought it was pretty cool. I thought that would be kind of a cool career. I did the education through Malaspina University College, which is now Vancouver Island University. Yeah, I actually went back to do the degree that had just started at VIU, and I got an opportunity to apply for Department of Fisheries and Oceans posting as a fishery officer.
Unreal. Yeah. So you've been doing it a while then?
Almost 18 and a half years with fisheries now.
So when you first put on the uniform, did you ever imagine that it would involve international patrols, smugglers, and stuff like that?
No, I honestly, there was such a minimal, even going back to when I started my career, that we weren't doing the things we're doing now. International patrols are obviously very cool to patrol the Pacific, which is my opportunity, but there's officers on the East Coast that get to patrol the Atlantic as well, and the Arctic oceans. So very similar in certain ways. From what I've heard, have never experienced the work on the East Coast, but worked with people that have, and I think the stories are very similar in a way. But yeah, there's no way to even go back 20 years and try to think I'm going to be patrolling on a Coast Guard ship across the Pacific Ocean from literally coast to coast, and seeing all these fishing fleets, hundreds or thousands of nautical miles from land, and there's a serious harvest of the resource, all kinds of fish, normally ones we don't typically see.
Okay.
Close to shore in BC, but
right.
But still all part of the food web that are Pacific salmon and other species, and as well as cetaceans and stuff, are going to be feeding on at various times of their life cycles.
Yeah, so it's not just like as you said, the common species that somebody like myself as a recreational angler would think of, like salmon or herring or even mackerel? Like what kind of things, like what kind of fish are out there that
Well, we do encounter mackerel for sure. There is a fair amount of mackerel harvest that happens out in the middle Pacific, and especially further west, closer to the Japanese Russian sort of
okay.
side. Um, but another big target species for, I mean, it's mostly Asian markets, is Pacific Saury,
What, what's that?
which if it's almost, if you crossed a mackerel and a herring
Oh,
together, sort of like that.
okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a smaller
It's like a
fish,
slender sort of,
very slender, very, yeah.
huh.
They have like little swimmerettes, kind of like the mackerel do as well. They sort of look in a way like a really skinny mackerel. There's billfish and sharks
Oh,
are a big target species as well.
okay. Yeah. Like if you're in inland, like my experience with sharks is when you're a kid, or even just recently in Rupert, we were catching dogfish, or occasionally you'll hear about someone catch a salmon shark or whatever. But you did 2 tours, if I'm correct, on the DFO
Yeah,
ship in international waters. What's a regular patrol look like for that? Or how long are you offshore at a time, or what? Walk us through that.
yeah, fair enough. So both tours left from around Victoria and headed west from there. They were on similar sized vessels. The most recent vessel was the Sir Wilfrid Laurier,
Okay.
which is a Canadian Coast Guard vessel. It's the biggest one we have on the west coast. Very comfortable icebreaker. It spent the rest after the international patrol. Spent the rest of the time in the Arctic. So it's a very capable vessel, and it was comfortable. The crew was great. The vessel before the first one that we went out on was actually a charter vessel. So Department of Fisheries reached out to, put it out to tender on, is anyone interested in putting in a bid for a contract to take a group of fish cops west out in the middle of the Pacific. And we were fortunate enough to have one vessel that was capable of doing it. Unfortunately, it was on the East Coast in Newfoundland. So yeah, that vessel came around. It was part of the company is called, or it was part of a company that's called Atlantic Towing, which is huge in the Maritimes region, or in Maritimes provinces. And yeah, we waited for the Atlantic Condor to come back around through the Panama Canal, and showed up in Victoria, reprovisioned, crew changed, and yeah, 10 or so fish cops climbed on board, as well as a couple of U.S. Coast Guard boarding officers, and with some interpreters, and loaded up on food and headed west. And Canada that was in 2003,
Okay.
2023, and no Canadian vessel had ever done that before.
That's
So
unreal.
I mean, there was a lot of nerves associated to it. We didn't really even know what we're getting ourselves into for the most part. We rushed we managed to get a nurse through the Coast Guard to come on board just in case we had some serious,
You're a long way out.
like you fall off a ladder, break a bone, get impaled by something
Yeah.
sharp, when, climbing on board these vessels. And some of them are huge, right? So you're climbing up like 20, 30 feet up the side of a ship in rough seas. I mean, we headed west for like 8 or 9 days before we even encountered another vessel to board.
Jeez.
So you're just kind of heading west at, I think, 11 or 12 knots. It's just a big tugboat heading out into the middle of the Pacific. So it was something else.
I bet. I just couldn't imagine being at sea that long. I love the ocean. I love fishing, but I've never been far enough away from the coast to not see the coast. And that would be a bit unnerving for me. So, job is part law enforcement, part conservation, and a whole lot of adventure. If you had to pick one part of it that's your favorite, what would it be?
Every law enforcement officer likes catching bad guys. It's sort of, it may not be what we got into the job to do, but it's sure a highlight when you're in it, to catch the bad guys and make a difference. But there's definitely other jobs that fishery officers could do that, catch way more bad guys and make big differences. But not a whole lot have the adventure that is tied to this job.
No kidding.
We don't have the same wilderness we do in other areas of BC. But I had an opportunity to do an assignment in the Arctic. I went to Iqaluit, Nunavut, for about 14 months for an assignment as a fishery officer. And I saw the furthest north community in Canada, Grise Fjord on Ellesmere Island.
Cool.
I was doing some training in Newfoundland in St. John's back at the beginning of my career. And I worked with the offshore unit in Newfoundland. And I did a flight out to the Grand Banks, out to the 200-mile limit, patrolling all the draggers that are out there targeting cod and a turbot and all kinds of stuff like that.
There's going to be people that are listening and watching to this that are going, maybe this is the career for me. So what kind of advice would you give them if somebody says, I want to be a fish cop?
To be technical about it, you need a 2-year diploma in something, resource-based, and any experience in the outdoors is a huge asset. Even if it's driving pickup trucks, running boats, 4x4 and quadding, these are all great experiences that super transferable to our career. Growing up on the coast is you go down to the beach and start flipping over rocks and just seeing what crawls out.
Yeah.
All this stuff just triggers interests in a lot of.
It sure did. Yeah, I did that a ton as a kid growing up on the coast. Like we spent a ton of time on the beach, and countless memories of just flipping over rocks and grabbing the shore crabs and what we called eels, but they weren't eels. Can't remember what they are.
Probably gunnels.
Gunnels. Yeah. If someone wants to report suspected poaching or any illegal activities that are related to, as you say, fins and flippers, how do they do it?
So we have our DFO radio room in the Pacific region that they take all our calls for the ORR line, or observe, record, report line. There's a bunch of numbers that all sort of lead you to that same thing. But I mean, if you Google observe, record, report, or report DFO fishing violations, anything along those lines, it's going to lead you to that. The local number that we often use is like 604-666-3500. That's the one I use. There's a 1-866 number, or various numbers that all end up leading to the same place. The good thing about our reporting line is there is someone there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there's usually one during the middle of the day at peak times. There's often two, but sometimes it's, as you can imagine, when everyone in all of BC is calling the one phone number if there's only one person, they might not answer, but if it'll go to voicemail and leave a voicemail, they will get back to you. They can also send, you can send emails, report by email as well. That works. And there's links to that on our website as well. The main thing that really helps us out as enforcement officers when we're trying to track things down. I mean, it's great to know that someone was fishing illegally or taking whatever that may be. It's great to know, but if there's some really key identifying features, a description of the person, what are they wearing, what are they driving? If you can get a license plate of a vehicle, that's amazing, because then we can track them down. A boat number a hull number off the side of, like, vessel license number off the side of the hull is very helpful as well. And if you can get a photo, awesome. That really helps us out, and we can follow up on things. It's very frustrating for us when we get back into the office, or you're scrolling through your phone and you see these occurrences come through or over the radio, and it's like, oh, real time, this is happening, or this happened. And you obviously, we try to make it out as soon as we can, but often we miss them. We're not there at the right time, and someone might just be, often it's like they're just leaving. Oh, we just saw these guys pack a bunch of salmon into the car and they just drove off. And if we don't have anything to follow up with, it's very frustrating for us, and frustrating for the member that's called it in, because they don't see the bad guy get caught. and we go, I wish we could have been there. We were not there. I'm sorry.
So never going to give too much info.
Yeah. We just, at least we know the activity's happening, and we can maybe patrol that area at the same time the next day and hope that same person's going to come back, and we can match up a bit of a description. But often it's just unfortunate. We try to follow up as best we can, but it's
so your call is always heard for anybody that's calling in. That just because they're not responding in it doesn't mean that they're not actively.
Honestly, in Nanaimo, we get so many calls. Okay. We usually get 600 to 800 occurrences each year, and most of them aren't. It's not like we're spreading them out over 365 days evenly. Often it's in the summertime and the fall on the rivers, and we're getting, sometimes it's, you come into the office the next day and you got 20 occurrences. And you're like, okay, obviously we can't call everyone back. Yeah. I'd love if we had a team of officers that were able to call these people back, but unfortunately we don't. And we take that into account when we're planning our patrols, and we'll follow up the best we can. But often you won't hear from us, but that doesn't mean you won't hear from us in the future, because, hey, the guy that you actually called in a month ago or a few weeks ago, well, look, we caught him, and we'd really like to talk to you because you saw him a few weeks ago as well. So writing things down or taking photos and having them in your phone for future is helpful. And if we end up giving you a call back and then you still have that information, you haven't forgot it, which all of us, we get caught up in life and forget all kinds of stuff. So,
I think that's an absolutely perfect way to end it there. They are listening. They will call you back when there's enough info. They are actively responding when they can to good info. So observe, record, report. And a huge thanks to you, Sean, for everything that you're doing and for spending a little bit of time with me today.
Wow. Thanks for having me. I had a great time. Thank you.
Awesome. We'll do it again in the future.
Yeah. Take care, Steve.